Hello, welcome back. So this video we're going to be doing a bit of a deeper dive into Regex. We're going to be looking at all the character classes, custom character sets, and also all the quantifiers within Regex. If you've not watched the first introduction video I did on Regex and the Regex functions available in Excel, then I suggest you check that out before you get into this video. It'll hopefully give you a good overview of what we're going to dive deeper into now. So in this deep dive, we're going to look at two of the most important building blocks within Regex. These are character classes, which tells Excel what kind of characters you're interested in finding. And we're going to look at quantifiers, which tell Excel exactly how many of those character classes to match. Once you've built the understanding of these character classes and quantifiers, you'll be able to write Regex functions that probably covers 80% of real-world problems that you'll run into. And if you hang around long enough, I'll show you a little tip of how we can extract multiple spill results into one single cell using Regex. Let's dive right in. Let's start with character classes. Character classes are like categories of characters that you can match. In Regex, a dot means wildcard, which means it can represent any single character. So a real world problem that we might have is we might have a product which always starts with a single or a set of characters, and we want to get the remaining product code after those first fixed character or characters. You can see I've set up this simple example where we've got a sample text of product AB8 in stock. So I know the product's going to begin with AB, but what I don't know is what character or characters are going to come after that AB. And I want to return AB and whatever comes after it. So we're going to use the regex extract. We're going to start typing regex. We're going to press tab on regex extract. Our text is going to be this field. And then our pattern is going to be in double quotes AB, because we know that the product we're looking for will always start with AB. And then we're going to use the wildcard, which is just the dot. And then because we've put that in, we can put double quotes, we can close our parenthesis, and we can press enter. And we've got the result of AB8. The next character class is \D. And what that symbolizes is any digits running through 0 to 9. So one problem we might have is trying to find invoice numbers, which are just digits. So I've set up this little sample text where we've got invoice number, followed by a set of digits, and then a couple of characters after. Now for this example, we're just interested in the invoice digits, and therefore to get that, we're going to use regex extract. We're going to point to our sample text, and then in double quotes we're going to put \D for the digits character class, and then if I was just to commit that, we would get the first digit being number 4. Just close the quotes. We'd get the first digit like that, but then if we wanted to combine that with a quantifier, which we'll go into more detail later on in this video, but quantifiers are just basically allowing us to feed a quantity into our pattern recognition. We could use the plus quantifier, which represents one or more. So we're saying, look for digits 0 through 9, and then return one or more until the end of the break of that pattern of digits. So if we commit that formula, you can now see we've got the invoice number up to the 2, and we've dropped off the XZ of characters. The next character class we're going to look at is to pull word characters. So \W allows us to look for letters, numbers, and underscores. So let's say, for example, here, if we wanted to pull out just the beginning bit of this email, the Ben Jones, we could do that by doing regex extract, point to our sample text again. Our pattern in double quotes this time will be \W, and then we're going to use the same quantifier that we used last time, because if we just close this like last time, we're just going to get the B, and if we put the plus in for one or more characters, you can see this gives us all the way up to the @ sign then. So that's a nice dynamic way to pull out the first part or any part. We could move around that email address using other methods of regex, which we'll cover later in this video or in future videos. And finally, the last character class we're going to look at This is really good for cleansing messy data. So the \S is for white space. And by white space, we're talking about spaces, tabs, or even line breaks. So I've set up some messy data as an example here, where we've got Ben, and then I've put a lot of spaces in between Ben and Jones. And we just want to clean that up. So it's Ben, one space, Jones. So this time, instead of reject extract, because we don't want to extract those spaces, we want to do a replace. So I'm just going to start typing reject. I'm going to press the down arrow to regex replace, and then we're going to start with this formula. So we'll point to our sample text again. Our pattern we're going to look for is going to be \S for white space. And then because we want to find multiple white spaces, or spaces in this example, we need to use a quantifier. So we use the same quantifier we've just been looking at, one or more, which is represented by that plus. Close our quotes on our pattern. We'll press our comma key to step into our replacement part of the argument. And then we're just going to replace any spaces, one or more, with a single space denoted by double quotes, space, double quotes. And then we can close parenthesis, press enter, and we've got a nice clean version of Ben space Jones instead of Ben with lots of spaces, Jones. So those are 4 character classes that are available to us in Regex. Another way you might want to target patterns within your text is actually by defining your own set of rules. So what these are called is custom character sets. We're going to have a look at how we can set some of those up. In this particular example, I'm going to show you how we could set up a custom character set for pulling out vowels within some text. So we're going to do reject extract. We're going to point to this sample text where we've got Ben Jones, and within that sample text, we're going to extract any vowels that are either uppercase or lowercase. The way we're going to do that is we're going to define a pattern within double quotes. Any custom character set needs to be within the square brackets. So we're going to start with an opening square bracket. We're going to type in uppercase AEIOU, and then if we want lowercase as well, if we don't want to use the case sensitivity argument, we could do AEIOU, and then I'm going to close square brackets for the end of that custom set, close my double quotes, and then we're going to close our parenthesis. So here we've got the result of the first vowel within Ben Jones, so the E. Now there's a few ways you could do this to return all the vowels. We could spill this array, which we looked at in the first regex video, using all matches. However, that's going to give me a spill error if we try and do that, because at the moment we've got this formula text to the side. You can see it's trying to spill across these 3. So I'm just going to undo that. Now the way around that is we could wrap this within a TEXTJOIN argument. So I'm going to start typing text. We're going to down arrow to TEXTJOIN, and you can see this concatenates a list or range of text strings using a delimiter. So if we press tab on that, it's asking what our delimiter should be, so how we want to separate these multiple results of vowels. We're just going to use no break, so we'll just put double quotes with nothing in between. And then if we press comma, it's asking, do we want to ignore empty? We can just press comma as the default is true. And then it's asking for our text, at which point we can feed in that spill array from our reject extract. So if we close parenthesis on the TEXTJOIN at the end, now if we press enter, we've got the 3 vowels from Ben Jones, the E, the O, and the final E. So that's a little bonus tip of how you can join together spill arrays using this regex function by nesting within TEXTJOIN. The next example we're going to look at is how we pull any uppercase letters using a custom set. So we could do equals regex extract, and then in this example we might have ticket numbers that always start with 2 letters. They could be any letters, but they're always in uppercase followed by digits. So in this example you can see I've done uppercase AB. That might be a type of ticket. So we want to identify what type of ticket this is by pulling out those 2 characters. So we'd point to our sample text, and our pattern this time is going to be double quotes, open our square brackets for our custom set, we're going to do A-Z, which means A all the way through to Z. So any character within the alphabet in uppercase. Then we're going to close our square brackets, close our double quotes, close our parenthesis. Now you can see we've got T. So this is the first uppercase letter because we just said pull any uppercase. Now if we were to wrap that in a text join so that we can just see the output, again we'll use double quotes for no spaces. And within our return mode, we'll do all matches. You can see we've got the T, the A and the B. So we're getting there, but we don't want that T from the start of here. So what we could do within this is stipulate a different type of quantifier, which uses curly brackets. So after our character class of any uppercase letters A through Z, how could we say we just want it when there's two uppercase characters together? We'd do our curly brackets, we'd put the number 2 and close our curly brackets, and that's saying whenever there's two uppercase letters together, that's the start of our pattern. So if we press enter on that, now we get the AB. So we've successfully pulled out AB from that string by telling it two uppercase letters together. Moving on, another custom set we could use. If we know that the zip code is usually 5 digits long, you can see I've set up some sample text here that says the customer lives at 90210. How do we pull out that 90210 on the assumption that it's always any digit 0 through to 9 and 5 digits long? What we can do is we can use a similar technique to what we've just done. We could point to here, the text, and then the pattern this time is going to be open double quotes, open square bracket. Our custom set is going to be the number 0, and then we use the -9, so 0 through to 9, close our square brackets, close our double quotes, close our parenthesis. So we should just get the 9 here for the first one. And if you remember the technique where we use the text join just to bring it all together, we use double quotes, comma. We'll ignore empty cells just by pressing comma and getting the default. And then we'll close our text join. So we've still got just the 9 because we're still just retrieving just the first digit, 0 through 9, which is okay, that's working. But if we know that zip code would be 5 digits long, we can use that same quantifier we've just been looking at with the curly brackets, putting in a 5 and then closing the curly brackets to say, find us a digit 0 through to 9 and where there's 5 of these next to each other. So if we press enter now, then we get the 90210 out of that text string. Within regex, we can tell it to ignore certain things. And to do that, you use the little up arrowhead or the caret. Now, to do an example of this, I've put in an invoice number and we've got lots of zeros, 1293. Now the invoice number might always be the same length, but it's building up from 1. So this is invoice 1293. But to maintain that length, there'll always be a number of zeros until the whole amount of numbers is filled up. So how do we cleanse that and just get invoice 1293 and remove those zeros? Well, one possible way we could do that is to say, ignore the zeros within the string. So if we did a regex extract, point to our sample text, our pattern this time is going to be double quotes, open square brackets, and we're going to put the caret sign and we're going to put 0, so that's saying ignore 0. Then we're going to close our square brackets and close our double quotes, close our parenthesis. We're going to get the first thing from that string which matches, which is just an I. And then we'll use our text join trick again. Our delimiter again will be nothing by double quotes, true to ignore empty cells. And then within our regex extract, we're going to pull all matches and close our parenthesis. And then you can see we've successfully pulled everything from this string, but we've ignored all the zeros to give us a nice clean invoice number. So that's character classes. They define what you're looking for, but often you don't just want to match one character. You might want quantities of one, many, or optional, and that's where the quantifiers come in. The first quantifier we're going to look at is the asterisk or the star. So this denotes a quantifier of 0 or more. So what we'll use here, we're going to use regex extract. We're going to point to our sample text here, Ben Jones. How do we extract that all out, all of the characters? We feed in the character class that we looked at earlier for W. And if you remember, if we close that off with double quotes and close our parenthesis, we'll just get the B because it's the first matching character. And then we can use the star for 0 or more, and then that will return Ben up to the first space. The next quantifier we've looked at already in quite a few examples. So this is where we're able to pull one or more. So we could just do regex extract. We've got an order ID and a number here. If we just wanted to get that order number out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sure you know how to do this from the previous examples. We'd point to our text. Our pattern would be double quotes /D for digits. Add in our quantifier of plus, close our double quotes, close our parenthesis, and then we've pulled out the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So plus is one or more. The next one we're going to look at for quantifiers is an optional argument. We use a question mark for this. I've just set up an invoice number here that separates the letters INV, dash, and invoice number. So one possibility is this invoice number might not always be consistently INV dash. In some instances, it might just be INV and then the number. So we might have these two variations on screen here. So how can we successfully say pull out everything that starts INV and then digits? I'm just going to clear this without the dash. So we've got one solid example, and then we'll start building our formula. So we'll do a regex extract. Our sample text is in this cell. Our pattern this time is going to be double quotes INV, and then because it could be dash and sometimes it might not be dash, we'll put the dash and then we'll put the question mark, and that's saying that that dash is optional in this pattern. And then after that we'll just do /D plus to say pull all the digits of one or more after where we've got the INV, and then we'll close our double quotes, and then we'll close our parenthesis, and then so that's worked in this instance where we've got INV dash, and if we were to delete that dash, we still get the return of INV 1001, because in here we stipulated that the dash is optional. The next quantifier, again, we've used within the previous character class examples, so I'm just going to quickly go through this. This is where we say we want exactly a number of the character class. So we denote that with the curly brackets like we've seen. So we'll just do a regex extract, and we want to pull out the 90210 for the zip code in here. So exactly the same as we did before. Point to the text. Our pattern is double quotes /D, and then we put the curly brackets. We say how many of them, 5. Close our curly brackets, close our double quotes, close our parenthesis, and that successfully pulls out 5 digits. A slight variation on the curly brackets, instead of getting an exact number where we just said exactly 5 digits, you could say there's at least a number of digits. So I'll just show you an example where our order numbers might always be at least 3 digits long. So we could do equals regex extract, point to this sample order number that I've put in this cell, and then our pattern this time is going to be double quotes /D for digits, and then our quantifier this time will be open curly brackets 3, and instead of closing the curly brackets straight away, which would mean exactly 3, we're going to put a comma before our curly bracket closure, and then our double quotes closure and our parenthesis closure. So we're saying 3 digits or more. So if we close that, we get the order number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I was to delete some numbers from there, so it's just order ABC 1, 2, 3, we'd get the 1, 2, 3. And then this is where the at least argument starts to come into play. If we get rid of that 3rd digit in that cell, This time we get an error because there's only 2 digits in there now, so our argument of at least 3 is no longer valid. And then the final variation of these curly brackets is we've looked at exactly, at least, and you can also do between. So we've got an invoice number here of 001. It might always be an invoice number of between 3 or 4 digits that you're interested in. So you could do regex extract, point to our sample text, and this time our pattern will be double quotes \d, and in curly brackets to say between 3 or 4 digits, we just simply do 3, 4, close our curly brackets, close our double quotes, and close our parenthesis, and then we've got 001. If we made that number 00012, you don't get the 2 because that's into the 5th digit. We've said between 3 and 4, and likewise if you just put 00, you get an error because we're only showing 2 digits there, so it doesn't qualify for the 3 or 4. Alright, so now you've seen character classes which define what you're looking for, and you've also seen quantifiers which define how many you're looking for. So if we put them both together, then you can clean messy data, extract IDs, validate postcodes, or just about anything else a text report might throw at you. In the next video, we'll look at some more regex techniques, such as anchors. And in the meantime, if you let me know in the comments if there's any particular text patterns that you struggle to extract the right things from, we can have a look at those as examples too. Please remember to support the channel by pressing subscribe. You'll keep up to date with these weekly videos, and also if you can press the like button to show that these videos are helpful. I'll see you again next week for some more Excel tips. Thanks for watching.